Oh boy, it's commentary time.
Oh,
This is Trey Parker.
Matt Stone. We're excited to be back here doing mini commentaries for season 14.
And as of usual, we just finished season 14 2 days ago. So we just finished doing the episode. What was it called?
We just finished called
Cream Fraiche.
We just finished one called Cream Fraiche.
So now we're back talking about the first show of that season, which was this sexual healing, which we did back in February, March
17th. Here it is,
So it's
right
been
here.
like-
March 17th.
So we did this quite a while ago.
Yeah, I mean, it was really great because I think we had some other ideas for the season before it started, but then Tiger Woods
blessed us with it.
and it was also all that anybody could talk about over like the holidays or over. That was it. It was just like, because it was Thanksgiving night he did it, right? So this is March, and it still was like.
It still was the big news.
Because then all the text messages had come out and stuff,
yeah.
and then it was like, oh, it wasn't just that night. It was like, he's a sex addict.
But the big thing was, we're like, well, we're an animated show. We could sort of recreate what probably happened that night. And so that was that first scene that you just saw was sort of our version of, all right, let's put everything together that we've heard. And we assume it happened basically exactly like this. This is probably what really went down.
Looks pretty realistic.
Because it was just that, as with everyone, the funniest part was that, it was like, okay, she swung a golf club at a car and broke a window, had found out he cheated, but she was just trying to save his life. It's like, okay. All right.
But she just found out he was cheating.
Yeah.
So she decided to help him.
And then it was later that we kind of had the idea of, we'll do that recreation, but then we'll make it the video game. Because then, just as ironic, then like Tiger Woods, whatever that version, that video game, Tiger Woods 3 or whatever, was coming out that week too. So it was just pretty cool. And then and then as soon as the Tiger Woods thing happened, we had this idea of like treating it like all the dudes being like, what? Being incredulous to the whole idea that.
And all the men basically, like, because it was that thing where when you're at a holiday party or whenever, Tiger Woods became that thing that this became kind of strange for men and women to talk about a little bit. I think because there's a little language barrier between so men had to act ultra like, I don't know why he would do that.
Right.
And it's kind of like the whole Chris Rock joke about like you're only as true as, you're only as faithful as opportunity allows, or there's that whole Chris Rock thing, that every guy and basically every girl knows in the world too, but the discussion that took place in the press about sexual addiction and stuff seemed to just miss the entire, this gap that, everyone has to acknowledge that, like, everyone knows what the fuck was going on with that.
But that's why, like, married dude, like a bunch of dudes had to be like, whenever it came up, and he'd be like, what do you mean? Oh my God, like he's married. He's super successful and the biggest athlete in the world, but he's married. How would he ever be with another woman?
And all these newspaper articles and stuff written by men.
Yeah.
And you could tell they're like, is sexual addiction a problem in our country? And it's like, you fucking, look at you, dude.
The first person you showed that to was your wife.
Yeah, you showed that to your wife.
Look, honey, look what I think. These guys have a problem. They have a problem because I can't relate to it at all.
I don't know why someone would do that.
So that was obviously the gist of it. that fist bump thing.
God, yeah.
Everyone's basically acting for the one woman in the room.
No, that was that show.
Yeah.
Don't they throw Kyle in there? Is it Kyle
they
or
throw
Butter?
Kyle and Butters, I think.
Kyle and Butter.
I can't remember.
Can't even remember. This is like, how long ago is this?
This is like, what, 8 months ago?
8 months ago. Can't even remember. What happens?
But we've been working on like a Broadway show since then and stuff, so we write this stuff and then we forget all about it.
Yeah.
So let's go to the next one and see what we did.
Let's see what else we forgot.
Okay, kids, let's take our seats.
So this is the tale of Scotty McBooger Balls, which basically the whole idea came out of, I remembered from when I was really it was more junior high and high school, but I had a friend of mine, we would always try to write the most disgusting thing we ever could, and we'd sort of switch off every other sentence. We'd sort of fill in the next sentence, and try to gross each other out, and then, of course, a teacher or a parent would end up finding it, and then we'd deny we ever did it. But it sort of came from that, and then the idea, there was sort of, there was an old Monty Python sketch. I don't remember the name of the sketch, but it's basically
it was
the funniest joke in the world.
Yeah, funniest joke in the
and
world.
And so, I'm sure it's on YouTube. You can check it out. But like, it's like basically they, someone writes a joke and then sits there, and as soon as he writes the joke, he starts laughing, and then he has a heart attack and dies. So they're like, and then the military starts using it because it's the funniest joke in the world. They start using that joke, and no one can hear it and not, laugh so hard that they die. And then in other languages, there's a great part with Hitler in it, where Hitler's trying to tell a joke and it's not as good. So it was really cool because we were such Python fans, and it was like this was the same kind of idea that like in a different way that was just like the most disgusting thing ever, and people can't help but vomit, but then this added extra thing where it's like it's actually really good.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like when we had that idea of like no one can deny how, and just the idea that you're doing this comedy about centered around this whole thing that you never show, you never hear more than one sentence of the actual book and everything, and so
It's like Pulp Fiction with the there's a name for that. What's it called? Like Pulp Fiction, what's in the suitcase, and Repo Man, what's in the trunk. It's like you never reveal
what is this.
What is
this thing that can make people vomit?
And it was also that idea of a band books, and our kids, especially, these boys would be like, first of all, band books are rad. I want to know what's in them. And when I find out what's in them, like, we could do a better job at, like, we could write a fucking grosser book than that, not understanding that there's any literary value to any band books. Which is kind of the way I think I thought about band books when I was, like, you wanted, obviously to read them first. Yeah. There's our Kill John Lennon Catcher in the Rye joke.
And then of course
that was hot in the news at that time too.
None of that really mattered. Everyone just liked this show because people threw up a lot. So.
And then also the what's his face, the poop that took a pee.
Oh yeah, I studied Morgan Freeman's voice a lot.
Yeah, we did a lot of Morgan. It was really about getting that to that Morgan Freeman joke that we wanted to do.
Yeah, just Morgan Freeman reading. It's like whenever you want something to be validated, you get Morgan Freeman to read it, and it suddenly makes sense.
That's what he is, and that's what we figured out in movies. He's like the guy that comes and just like, here's this ridiculous fucking concept. Have Morgan Freeman explain it to you, and you'll believe it.
Yeah. If Morgan Freeman explains it to Angelina Jolie, then it makes sense. And we were saying that every time he does that, he gets a new freckle.
Yeah. That's right. Every time Morgan Freeman explains an impossible concept in a movie, he gets another freckle.
Well, let's move on to the next one because it's one of my favorites.
This is our medicinal marijuana show that I think came about because I think I had gone back to Colorado, or you had gone back to Colorado, and they had Colorado is kind of like California now, where there's medicinal pot stores, but Colorado is actually way beyond California. There's pot stores everywhere in Colorado now. It's pretty rad, actually. It's like they kind of outdid California. And I think this episode, I think we started talking about this, and then how certain kind of like how fatty food now is like the new, like, okay, we've got to ban that. It's like how certain substances and shit become like okay in society, and then other ones become not okay, and how this fatty food and pot. And then when we were in the writers' meeting, it's like somehow KFC came up, and we were talking about how this idea of a pot store opening up at a KFC. I think you talked about it. I think Trey said something about it. And I was like, I've seen that before on somewhere online. And there's a pot store in L.A., in Venice, right? in Palms, I think, that was an old KFC that somebody turned into a pot store. And it basically looked just like this. Like, so it was funny that we joked our way to a place where that basically actually existed. Yeah.
But that was a funny thing about Colorado, too, because you were saying how, like in Steamboat Springs, there was a medicinal marijuana store, and there's like 2 registered people that can get medicinal. It's like, okay, obviously they're not just catering to those 2 people.
Right. No, I mean, I'm a total, I think that, I'm a total believer that basically that pot can help people who are sick. And I know people who've been sick with AIDS or cancer that weed has really helped them eat. And I mean, I'm a big believer in all that. But obviously, everyone knows it's kind of a sham too, that like I would say everyone who's going to medicinal marijuana doesn't have cancer, and they're going for their, quote, back pain or something.
No.
So, obviously that's the story, is Randy, instead of pretending he has back pain, which is really all you need to do, is just say my back hurts or my knee hurts or some shit, and he goes and gives himself testicular cancer.
Right.
So,
but it was sort of that joke too of like so many of the people that fight so hard for marijuana should be legal are some of the same people that are saying, get rid of KFC, get rid of Taco Bell, get rid of this stuff's bad for you. It's just like, and what doesn't matter what the truth is, like they're just trying to oppress a different group of people. So it's like
that's just something they don't like.
Yeah. So,
but for some people, they get just as high off fried chicken as other people do off weed.
And then once we had the idea that Randy should get testicular cancer and have giant balls, then we're like, oh, this is gold.
Yeah, and then we came up with, what's that song? What's the song from? It's from those little bouncer things, or what's that? The song that plays?
Oh, the hippity hop.
Is it from the hippity hop?
Well, that's what we were talking about being was the hip. But then no, the song we got was just some random.
No, it was off a weird '70s commercial. Remember?
Oh, right.
I can't remember what it was though.
No, I can't remember either.
Boy, we should know for commentary, but we don't.
We should watch these before commentary on them.
Instead of going, hey, this is really cool. Wish I could tell you about it, but I can't. Sorry about that. So in the end, they make medicinal fried chicken.
And everyone's happy.
And everyone's happy. So, but really, honestly, like if you're a stoner, Colorado is the place to be. It's pretty rad. And hopefully they'll vote to legalize it pretty soon. So it'll be like...
They might beat California to it, right?
I think, yeah, they could be. California just voted it down like a bunch of
that's
fucking...
gonna be a while.
God, don't get me started on California liberals voting down fucking Prop 19. God damn it. Finally,
And moving on.
Finally, someone opened the jail door and you don't walk out.
And moving on.
Finally, you're free. Let's move on before I get into that.
I've got more friends than Kyle. I've got more friends than Kyle.
So this was our big Facebook episode, which we just finally had to do because I resisted Facebook for a long time, and then I finally just decided it was like an easy way. I was seeing if I could get in touch with some friends from high school, and so I sort of reluctantly signed up, just said, okay, well, I guess I'll just get a little page. And then at first, I definitely got sucked in for about a week. At first, I was like, oh, wow, that, I was suddenly getting in touch with a lot of people who I had not heard from since, junior high or high school, and I thought that was really cool. And then those same people just kept coming back and wanted to know if I wanted to play chess online and what I had eaten the night before. And very, very quickly, I started going, this is not cool. This sucks. And so at first it was but it was sort of just this feeling like, wow, I'm really getting sucked into it, because then suddenly people were like being angry, saying, hey, I posted something on your wall and you didn't read it. And I was like, well, I'm only going to look at it once a couple weeks or something. But then people started getting offended that I wasn't responding to their stuff on Facebook. And so I literally just had this feeling like I was getting sucked into something I did. And it was like so much bigger than me that I couldn't help but get sucked into it. And so we just decided to make that stand and have him sort of literally get sucked into it and use the whole idea of what would it be inside Facebook. And we decided it would be Tron.
Right. Because Tron was such a sweet movie growing up, and
the old Tron. As of this recording, we haven't seen the new Tron.
No,
yet,
it comes
so
out in December. On this recording, I'm gonna go on record, and I think it looks pretty sweet, relatively cool, and I'm really psyched to see it. Now, I'll update you next commentary on if that panned out, if it was any good. But it looks pretty cool.
I'm just worried they could go kind of Michael Bay with it and like Transformers with it, where you're just kind of like, oh no, like.
Yeah, but
they just get into people's feelings and stuff.
Oh, I think it is going to be a little bit like that. I think there'll be some good big set pieces and stuff. And Daft Punk does the soundtrack. That's pretty cool. Like, they made a couple of cool choices. And the fact that what's his ass is in it, Jeff Bridges.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's pretty cool. So overall, cool. This little kid, Kip Drordy, I think we made it.
Yeah.
I love these scenes with him. These scenes where he just runs in and checks to see if anybody sent a message. I mean, they're sadly probably close to truth for a lot of people. And I mean, I'm not going to talk about. I mean, I've done that too with an email you're waiting for somebody to, how much like one text message or you're waiting on one person to send you something. But I love those scenes. They have kind of a. I don't want to say Pixar like they're as good as Pixar, but they have a great they're just without having any dialogue.
No, it's
they're
always nice
with emotion,
when you can do a scene with no dialogue and it's good.
And it's that emotionally kind of like you're.
That's why Pixar's so good at what they do, because they can do that all the time.
Yeah, like every scene in every movie,
Yeah.
almost every movie, and make it work. But that little kid turned out to be much more of an emotional kind of story than we even intended. And now he has a little Facebook page that I think the South Park Studios guys administer, and I think he has like 400,000 friends. Which is pretty cool. They still do updates that are like, ate some pizza today.
Yeah.
So, is there anything else in this episode?
It's really all very Facebook heavy. We had a scene. We used to have more of Cartman doing the whole what's his name thing. The thing he does, the money guy on CNN.
Jim Cramer.
Yeah, we had more of those, and actually, it's probably on this DVD of like the deleted scenes, because there was.
Yeah, because it was like treating friends like stocks.
Yeah,
and taking my stock's up today. I've got 2 more friends. Oh no, I lost some friends today. I'm down.
Yeah, because originally the story was really going a lot more that direction, but then we just liked the Stan stuff so much, and then we didn't even know about this whole farm thing that the Farmville. But they were just the same thing. Like I would constantly be walking by animators here at South Park, and they'd have these little farms up on their desk. I'm like, what is that? And they're like, oh, it's Facebook. And so we're like, okay, we're putting that in the show because people. Because I was.
It used to be
people,
World of Warcraft, and now it's Farmville on their screens.
And so we were asking the animators and stuff like, okay, well, so then people can come and visit your farms? Like, yeah. And it's like, well, so then what's the goal? And you're like, well, nothing. You just try to have a nice farm. It's like, so you can make your farm way cooler than everyone else. It's like, no, not really. It's like all this stuff, just like grown people are doing this during the day during South Park.
I think that's all from this
Yeah, I
episode.
think that's probably all we know.
We just spit out everything we can think of, and then that's it. Yeah. Next, please.
Our factory works.
So this was our 200th episode, which got some attention.
It should have been such a time for celebration.
Yeah, it wasn't even. The thing was, we didn't even mean. It was just like, oh, for show 200, let's just give the real fans a, kind of a taste of, basically like the whole thing was like, let's do a clip show, but not do a clip show. Like, let's do in a clip show where they would normally sit there and go, oh, here's our best moments. Here, look at this again. But clip shows today are so stupid for anyone to do because anyone can go watch DVDs or whatever. So we're like, let's do a clip show, but let's take sort of the biggest, most famous moments in South Park and let's revisit them and then make them all into its own plot. And it was actually kind of a fun one to write because
it was like by design. It was like, it's our 200th episode. We're going to do the most self-indulgent kind of episode there is. It's going to be the episode is about the show,
right,
about its biggest controversies, its biggest kind of moments. So it's like it's by design kind of up our own ass and about our about the show.
And so it was just one of many things. They were like, oh, well, we can't do a big show about our biggest controversial things without doing one with the prophet of the Muslim faith. So we'll put that in there too. And it really wasn't even, honestly, it was just one of many things. Obviously we spent way more time with the Barbra Streisand monster than we did with that. That was just, but since then, and it just became this big thing. And obviously we're still upset and pissed off about it all. But I mean, I guess we can just wait till the next one because it was a two-parter. So it's that's sort of the setup of it all, and then we can go to because it was the second part where basically all the shit hit the fan while we were making part two, which again we were just trying to. What we thought was far more important and far more interesting was that we were finally going to answer who Eric. We were bringing back the biggest, way bigger than the prophet of Muslim faith was. Eric Cartman actually did have a father, and we're going to reveal it. And we thought that was just so huge that we didn't really think anything else would happen. But we'll just go to the next one.
So obviously this is a great opening to a show. I love this opening, and I love this. I love this song, and I love how just like
it just starts with his fist.
And it just starts with the craziest. Like what the fuck? Yeah. Like where did this come from?
Yeah, why are we starting here? This is actually really hard because we're supposed to be sitting here doing commentary on something we're really not supposed to talk about at all. Obviously we got the way we intended this to air never got aired. It got changed. We didn't change it. And it was kind of hard for us because whereas sort of the first one where we did the Prophet of the Muslim Faith with Family Guy, we purposely kind of made it the joke that we couldn't show them. And now here it went even suddenly between the week of making the first one and this one coming out, so much shit hit the fan and that basically we couldn't even, our hands were completely tied. And so we're like, well, we're just going to deliver it this way, the way we think it should be. And then you'll have to do what you have to do to it. And so it got sort of butchered on air. And it's butchered here too. We still can't show it the way we made it. Including the final speech, which wasn't a joke on. People thought it was a joke that's all beeped, but actually it's not. It had a point. It had, we thought, a good point. But the thing, and really, besides that, which everyone already knows, and we already said in the statement, we don't really know anything we can say about this episode because it'll probably just get sort of cut out or beeped over somehow. I mean, I think probably the thing we could talk about that they wouldn't beep out is just the fact that
Really in there. It could be a trick. It's no trick, dude. My friend and I went to the Super Best Friends and brought him here. Then have him step out of the bear costume. You have until the count of 10. 1.
Don't do it, Randy. If is seen, we could get bombed. 2. Idiot. If he isn't seen, we're about to definitely get bombed.
3.
All right, stop. We'll do what you say. I'm sorry, but will you please step out of the bear costume?
Okay, so, see? That isn't that's Santa Claus.
Sorry, boys, I tried.
Ah, crap.
Boys, you got Santa to be when?
When you all said you were gonna hand over to Tom Cruise. We promised Jesus that would stay safely in the U-Haul.
I'm sorry, Kyle. I really thought my idea would work for you.
If we were gonna have someone in a bear costume, why would we actually have it be you idiot? So where is he?
Meanwhile, at the Hall of the Super Best Friends.
I mean, so I mean, that was basically it. So,
That was it, yeah.
all right.
I guess that's enough for that
Okay,
one. Let's move on.
let's move on.
That's cool enough.
This program contains
So this-
subject matter.
This was our first episode after the whole 200 and 201 thing.
Yeah, and we were actually
And-
thinking about not doing anymore.
We were just so tired and spent, I remember.
It was
and,
such a stressful week, but we decided, we can do it. We'll do
yeah.
one more show.
And I think, I can't remember one other time we were really, really tired and we went to a Jimmy show. It was when
Yeah.
the Jimmy Erection show. I
Yeah,
don't remember where it was in production, but there's something about like, okay, let's just do something
Yeah,
weird
no point,
and
no-
different. And
yeah.
seventh kind of last shows of runs, we always kind of go, let's just even break our own rules
That's
a
why
little
they're
bit.
so good usually.
Yeah, and that's why they're kind of good because we just kind of give up. We just kind of get outside of our own.
But it was
little
interesting.
box.
Actually, we had this stuff, so we're kind of thinking about what we can do. We're all out of idea, and it was just such a stressful 2 weeks, and we were just so pissed and burnt and everything. But we came across some of this footage, and actually, it was from the whole Oprah Winfrey Minge show.
Brilliant,
and-
that show. Everyone's favorite.
But it's so funny because we came across these scenes that we had cut out of that, which is basically all of this stuff. Because in that show originally, Tally did go to intervention, and he had an intervention, and he did all this stuff, and we were parroting the show Intervention, which I watched all the time because I love watching people who are more fucked up than me, and but we watched these scenes. We're like, this stuff's pretty funny, and it had been a while since the Oprahs. We're like, maybe we could take these scenes and make it into its own show. We just didn't think it was quite enough to do an entire Tally episode of
Yeah.
Italian. So
We-
we're like, let's combine it with something. And then we decided to put it with the Jimmy stuff. And then the way they worked together was pretty cool. And so it ended up being pretty cool.
I think it ended up being. It's such a weird episode. Like
Yeah.
but Jimmy gives us that great he's just such a great character between all of his weird interests and his crazy optimism.
When it also happened, because we had done a Jimmy show.
I think
quite
once
a
we came
while
up with
back.
Tardy Caca, we're like, okay, this is what we're doing.
This is what you do after you've insulted a lot of people politically. But what's funny is that we had done this whole Jimmy show where he goes on steroids, and we did the Special Olympics. And there's this one little scene in that show where this sort of, I think we can name him Sean. This one kid is like selling Jimmy steroids, right? And he was just like, hey, how you want steroids? And for some reason, that character always made us laugh so hard. We're like, we got to bring that kid back. And we're like, what if that kid hates Jimmy the same way Jimmy hated Timmy, but that he's totally aware? And then we started talking about the whole old Warner Brothers cartoons where there were the two gangsters.
Yeah.
One was always really short.
Say, boss.
Yeah, and then the really tall one that was like, what you doing, boy? And then the little one that was more like, shut up, shutting up, and all that stuff. So we're like, oh, we got to take, do that, but with handicapped kids, so, which is pretty wrong, but pretty sweet.
I just remember I like the Colorado. Was it the Colorado mountain shark?
Yeah, there's just all this shit
So
that doesn't.
stupid.
It's so funny that by episode.
This is the
7,
most number of ingredients in a dish. That,
Yeah,
that
we're
this
just
is like
who cares?
This is like Southwestern Asian African fusion.
We sort of
dish.
turn off our snobby writer machines on the last episodes of seasons, and that's why
and
they're
they,
kind of
they
sweet
get better.
sometimes.
Yeah. Here's a bunch of other
Yeah,
Warner
and then
Brothers
we were like, well, let's do other Warner Brother characters.
as handicapped kids.
Yeah.
That's really funny right there. We could have done a whole show with all these little kids.
I just want to do it again. I wanted actually, so this was the last show of that little part of this run. And then when we came back, instead of starting what we started with, which was the NASCAR show, I want to just start the new show of the new season, and it just pans over, and there those guys are, and it's like, okay, here's how we're going to get rid of Jimmy. It's just like, still just keep going. They're still trying to get rid of him. All right, well, let's move on to the second part of the season. So this was the start of the fall part of this back half of the season, where we'd been talking a while about doing a NASCAR show, just because NASCAR is so huge and we have some crossover and fans.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth of it, we just didn't really know much about it. We'd never been to one, obviously, and we hadn't really watched it on television, so we kind of had to, and we still don't.
Yeah, I've watched a little bit of NASCAR, but it's kind of like, it is that thing where it's kind of hard to get into. Like, it's hard to see, like, what is the allure of this,
Yeah.
I mean, I get that it's not, I don't know those people, I think it's a really
want to be a NASCAR driver.
it's like a hell of a sport to have to like go do. Like I think they're pretty amazing athletes, the drivers and stuff. But it is like you are driving. All the tracks are exactly the same, and you are driving around in a big circle for 500 miles. It's a thing.
For a long time. That was the part that surprised me.
There's
Was
a
how
lot.
long they are.
Yeah, there's a lot to make fun of there.
Yeah.
And so we just started like kind of this is a great scene. I love this scene where Cartman is just like, I'm not poor and stupid enough, and they're like, yes, you are, and he's like, quit, trying to make me feel better. But just, I don't even know what this show's saying really. We just thought it was funny that like Cartman is like, I'm not poor and stupid enough, and it's like, is he fucking around? Is he really want to be a NASCAR driver?
One is because whenever you have Cartman do something, it's like you don't know what we're trying to say. Like, are we saying that you need to be poor and stupid? Are we ripping on it, or are we not ripping on it? And
We don't even know.
We don't know. I mean, we really don't know it well enough to rip on it either, or not.
But that's the rip on NASCAR is that basically their fans are poor and stupid, which it doesn't really. I don't think that's true, but it's like Cartman thinking that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Somehow it kind of makes sense. Yeah. And the this being the first show of the run, our animators had a little extra time to model the cars in 3D and make that race footage, which I think looks awesome. So, like this show has really cool production values, the race and stuff.
Yeah. And then we actually ended up having one of our PAs go out and get a bunch of Vagisil, which sat in the writer's room because we had to know exactly. We didn't, it just like NASCAR, we knew almost as little about Vagisil as we did about NASCAR. We knew a little more about Vagisil, but we didn't know, was it an ointment or a spray or what was it? And so the poor PA had to go out to Walgreens and buy a bunch of Vagisil in every different form.
Kind of form. And there's a lot of forms.
And there's still actually a bunch of Vagisil in the writer's room. If anyone needs any.
You know what else is in this video? And we kind of had to like fit it in is the dip vids. Which, if you're not familiar with dip vids, you need to go to your computer right now and type in dip vid. It's one of the more kind of crazy.
Actually, the dip vid part of this used to be longer, but then the show became about.
We talked about doing a whole show about dip vids.
Yeah.
Just dip vids are just so weird and crazy.
Yeah.
And kind of awesome though. So if you don't know what a dip vid is, go to your computer and type it in and check out how many hundreds of dip vids there are.
We were going to do that whole storyline where Cartman was basically dipping Vagisil, and then Vagisil started making flavored Vagisil because all the kids were dipping it, and then Obama banned flavored Vagisil, and then, so that just so that Cartman could do that same dip vid.
Because that whole, if you don't get the reference, which probably no one does because it's a weird obscure dip vid, is there's a dip vid where a guy bitches about they banned like flavored tobacco products. And he says almost exactly like a bunch, like the stuff Cartman says parodies what he says. But there's a part where he says, Obama's fucking gay for doing that. Yeah. It's so funny.
Fucking gay as hell. One of my favorite, there's always stuff when whatever little blogs or blurbs write about it. There was some, like from a legitimate place, it was like this thing when after the show aired, it's like South Park calls Obama gay. And I'm like, what? Like that was what they took away from was that we called the president a homosexual. And it's like, gay as hell does not mean homosexual.
Right, and certainly within that context of where it's just like being a big stupid joke on it within a character doing it. But but I think if they shouldn't ban flavored Vagisil. No. All right, let's move on.
So this was our big Jersey show, which of course a lot of people thought was because of the Jersey Shore phenomenon, which of course it kind of was, but it was really way more because of my infatuation with Housewives of New Jersey, which I've seen every episode of at least twice. And so it was just, the fact that there was Housewives of Jersey and then Jerseylicious and then Jersey Shore was just like, it seemed like suddenly any reality show with the Jersey word in it was coming out. So we're trying to do not just a take on Jersey Shore, but on the Jersey phenomenon as a whole.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and how there just seems to have taken over television. And I had never seen Housewives of Jersey Shore, so when we started in this episode, I watched it.
Yeah.
Like,
and this woman here at the table is obviously she's a version of Teresa from Housewives of New Jersey. And by the way, Teresa, I think, really does start most of the fights with Danielle. I mean, obviously Danielle's got super big problems, but I really, when you look back, and Teresa's always talking about what a great person she is and how she doesn't start. Teresa always starts the fight, always looking for a fight, always looking to cause problems. And of course, since Danielle is completely fucked in the head, it's always going to Well, anyway, we don't need to really talk about
This episode really took off for me when we figured out muff cabbage.
Yeah.
And it was like just that joke of like muff garbage, muff cabbage.
We were just trying to get muff cabbage to catch on as a phrase. And now it's actually pretty sweet. You can type on the internet too. Now you can type muff cabbage and you'll see people just screaming the word muff cabbage. I don't know. It's kind of like they took our jobs. It kind of muff cabbage is the new took our job.
Muff cabbage.
But
I don't know what else.
And then we just had the whole idea of making Snooki into this sort of thing.
I watched, because when we started, I had never seen Jersey Shore either until we started doing this episode. So I watched some Jersey Shores, and I actually really liked it. That first season is
I watched
good.
all
It's
of
a
season 1
well-done
of
show.
Jersey Show, and I like it's. That's the thing. It's well produced.
It's
so
a really
that's why
good
it's
show.
a very watchable show. It's has nothing to do with them because you could fit in tons of different people into that and it'd be funny. But it's just well done.
Yeah, it's something compelling about those. I don't know if it's those people in particular or something, but
But it was part of that when we saw that now season 2 is going to be Jersey Shore, Miami. It's like, well, it's not Jersey Shore. So it's like, that's why it's like, okay, well, Jersey Shore, Colorado, Jersey, and it was just sort of the idea that the Jersey Shore is now sort of everywhere in the U.S. And it was sort of one of those shows. It took a lot of different routes, and we tried a lot of different things, and then we, finally went the whole Teen Wolf route with Kyle.
that's right, the Teen Wolf thing, yeah.
And just once we had the idea that Carmen learned he was from Jersey, it was the three J's.
Ginger Jew in Jersey.
Yeah. So,
Yeah,
that's about it.
that's all of our Jersey stuff.
So this episode in Sheepshin was really just started out as our hoarding episode because we had it was sort of the same thing as the Jersey thing where it's just like there's 2 or 3 different shows on different channels about hoarding all of a sudden, and hoarders, and so much more frustrating to me than like intervention. Intervention I can actually watch and enjoy, but hoarders, you're always just sitting there going, clean that shit up, and there are always people coming and very delicately being like, can I throw this away? And they're like, no, not that. And I'm like, okay, and it's just like, throw it away. Tell them to fuck off and throw it away. But so it really was just at first, definitely by Thursday or Friday, the first few days of working on this one, we just thought it was going to be a hoarding thing. We're like, well, let's make it hoarding, but in your locker. And then he can go to the counselor and we'll find out that Mackie was a hoarder, and then we'll, sort of take it from there.
Right. And then we decided to combine it with Inception.
Yeah. Well, I think the same day that we decided, because we decided, let's have them, they're going to learn why they're hoarders,
Right.
So we'll take them back, we'll hypnotize, or we'll put them into their dreams. And that's when some people in the room started saying, oh, it's like Inception, which I hadn't seen. And so,
right, we should explain. This is we had a little dust up on this episode because we basically ripped off these guys from College Humor, but we didn't mean to, and that sounds really like what a fucking lame excuse. But what happened is that I had seen Inception, and I think most people in the writers' room had seen it, but Trey hadn't seen it, and so when we were looking at stuff online. And we started looking at different parodies
because we couldn't get a copy of the movie. The movie hadn't come out on.
Couldn't get a copy of the movie, and sometimes we can get like a screener or something like this. And we found a BitTorrent, but it was almost unwatchable. And it's like you don't even want to watch it on your little computer. So we just watched parodies. And I remember there's this one. We watched this one. It was the one from College Humor that's so well done. And I remember I said to Trey, like, that's it. That's the movie. That's what it is. I know it seems unbelievable, but it's that fucking stupid. Yeah. And that was because that Inception, the dialogue in Inception, what the guys did on their College Humor thing is like they aped it so well that there were literally parts that I didn't remember if that was like actually in the movie or that. But in saying, Trey, that's the movie, I think Trey then went and because
then we took the line. There's a part where the guy says, my wife's dreams manifest themselves as train or something like that. And I was like, really? Like that's what it is, And so we just wrote it that way.
But. Yeah, we thought there was lines in the movie, and then a part of it is not doing any fucking QC on it. And if we would have taken 10 seconds and literally really thought about it,
or watch the movie.
Or watch the movie. I mean, there's so many things that so many places along the way where we fucked up and didn't kind of do our homework. And a lot, we do the show so fast, a lot of times kind of first drafts go on the air. And, we hope they're like really good first drafts or at least have the energy and like punk rock, like our whole way we excuse it to ourselves as well. At least it's fresh, and it's like, like Saturday Night Live is like not the funniest all the time, but it's live and they did it that week and that's part of the energy. We've convinced ourselves that that's part of South Park, even when it's like, maybe not the best thing, and this was absolutely one where it just slipped through the production process. I wasn't paying attention to what it was. Trey had never seen the movie and like assumed those were lines in the movie, and it's just a huge fuck up. And that's just what it is.
But then luckily you kind of knew one of the guys.
I know a guy who works at College Humor, and he, let me know basically the second after these guys wrote it on their blog. And as soon as I realized what happened, I mean, he probably emailed me within an hour. I just called them, and the guys who actually did the Inception parody, and I just said, guys, I'm sorry. I don't know what else to say. Like, we just fucked up. We ripped off your shit. And I told him right there on the phone, I said, how do we make this right? I said, we could, put a retroactive credit on the show. We could, whatever. And they were so fucking sweet and understanding and nice about it. Honestly, probably too much so. They, right in the moment, they're like, nope, that makes sense. They were really, they're fans of ours, and they were just immediately totally awesome and sweet about it. And so we're going to go to New York in a couple months and take them out to dinner and thank them, because they're really funny guys, and two, we did kind of rip them off, although we didn't mean to.
And it was just one little tiny part, so.
Yeah, but anyway, it wasn't to them. They put a lot of time in the thing, and
they definitely.
If you haven't seen their thing, go online and see it. It's fucking funny. I think it's called Inception Characters Don't Know Inception or something like that.
Oh my god.
And it's really good. So that's hopefully helps explain that stupid thing that we did a little bit. And I would say this episode's pretty funny. Actually, it turned out pretty good.
Yeah, all this stuff we came up with the sheep herder.
Yeah, and Inception, like we thought that was really funny.
Yeah, once we knew we had a sheep herder and the word Inception, and we had Inception for the title, we were
all that good stuff. Yeah, we came up with that on our own. All right, let's move on.
So this is where things just get all fucked up, because basically we decided we'd been wanting to do kind of another Coon episode. We wanted to do a Coon sequel, and we'd been wanting to do it for a while, and so we decided to do this, having no idea that the part 2 of the Coon would end up becoming a trilogy. So as we started,
I think we thought it was going to be a one-parter when we started.
Thought it was just going to be a one-part thing, and we were going to do the basically the idea that Cartman was he now had Coon and friends, and we'd sort of bring Mysterion back and have the other kids and try to kind of guess a little bit at who's who. But then this character, Captain Hindsight, comes around, and he won't be a part of Coon and Friends, kind of like a holdout in a union or something like that. And then really the show was just trying to get this real superhero, Captain Hindsight, to join Coon and Friends, and that was going to be the whole show.
Mm-hmm.
Could I have a quick word with you in the debriefing chamber?
But then
Captain Hindsight was inspired by the BP oil spill and some people's reaction to it. Especially,
like James Cameron.
It was especially James Cameron. There was a thing where James Cameron, who's obviously a fucking really smart guy, like it was something, and probably taken out of context, he said something like, well, these people down in BP trying to clean this up, or the people working on this are obviously totally stupid, and they should have done it this way. And it's true that like whoever was in charge fucked up, obviously. But once there's like a thing on the bottom of the ocean spewing oil a mile down, it really becomes like, shit does happen, and it's hard to, and once it happens, it becomes like a bunch of Captain Hindsight saying, well, I wouldn't have done that. It's like, really? A bunch about deep sea like oil drilling? And James Cameron, because he's floated around the Titanic stuff, he does know a lot about deep sea stuff. But it just had a real like, oh, thanks, Captain Hindsight. And then somebody said, why don't we literalize that character and rip on kind of journalists, and how journalists, that's basically, they're all so smug about their hindsight all the time, but it's really easy to always report on something and say what should have been done. Right. And that was Captain Hindsight's greatest power.
And then sort of what happened was, it gets to be, as usual, we're writing the stuff Thursday, Friday, it gets to be Saturday, and we're starting to get deeper into the story, and we're like, well, what can BP, the joke of like, they do an oil spill, but what's the parody version of that? And we're like, oh, they tore open a whole another dimension. And we've been wanting to do, for the longest time, for like years, we've been wanting to do this big H.P. Lovecraft thing, where we basically, because I'm into the board game Arkham Horror and started reading, I've always kind of, since I was a kid, been into some of Lovecraft stuff. And so we had them start designing all these sort of other creatures from another dimension based on H.P. Lovecraft stuff, including Cthulhu. And we always had, and we even had full done scenes and everything. It was always going to be a Halloween special, but we just never could really figure anything out. So we're like, you know what? Let's just use those characters. We'll just use them. And it just seems such a waste to use all that for one little joke of they tore a hole into another dimension.
Right.
So we're like, well, let's just make it. And then it just suddenly, we're like, you know what? Let's make it 2 parts. We'll do another 2-parter. And maybe what we'll do is in part 2, we'll reveal finally who Mysterion is. And we definitely didn't know at that time that the 2-parter was going to become a 3-parter, but shit happens.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to part 2 and talk about what great things happen in it. So this episode obviously has the work of, we're showing off our very talented storyboard character design department, because they did all these comic books, and starting with a whole comic book thing like this. And I think this stuff just looks amazing. And if you're lucky enough to be able to see this in HD, because I know a lot of people can, it looks awesome. And it's really added a whole cool element to this. Look at that. It looks so cool.
And so we knew, basically, okay, we're gonna answer who Mysterion is, and even some people in the writers' room were like, well, who is Mysterion? And I'm like, it's Kenny. And at some point during the end of making the original Coon episode, Matt and I had decided it was Kenny, and we knew. And so the thing is that when we then retroactively were looking back at the Coon, when you look back at that first Coon episode now, knowing that Mysterion's Kenny, it's really kind of satisfying and cool. So we thought, well, maybe let's not just take the whole episode and then at the end we finally reveal Mysterion's Kenny. Let's let people know kind of right away. And let's do it not in this big, giant, here's the reveal kind of way, but just very throwaway. And that's why we decided to do it in this way of like, whoa, hey, Kenny, calm down. Like, that's the reveal. That's the reveal, which we thought was kind of cool. But now we really expected, okay, well, we'll get through this. We'll have Cartman go down, get Cthulhu. He'll come back and try to fight the boys and whatever. But things just sort of
then took off, and they had to do 3 parts.
But then what happened was, what's his name made his commercial.
Well, LeBron James made his commercial somewhere in these couple weeks. That silly, like, what should I do commercial.
Yeah.
Like, what should you do? It's like a most cynical commercial of all. And I really, really, really appreciate and look up to people who can do things that cynical. But that thing, man, that just was like a whole new level of like, what should I do? Like, how about don't be a dick?
And we were like, wow, that is the perfect. And I don't
really,
think
you don't know what you should do?
Cartman doesn't do it till the next episode, but we're like, that's a perfect Cartman response. Like when he gets in trouble and his mom's pissed at him, it's like, Mom, what should I do?
What do you want me to go back, to the day I did that and not do it?
Let me put this on you.
Yeah. Your fault. Yeah, you have to answer for this now.
Yeah, you answer for this.
Yeah. It's like, not my fault. It's your deal.
But we went back and forth a lot with how, when exactly to reveal that Kenny was Mysterion, and sort of when to, and also, when to then, obviously the big thing that became the story was the fact that it's the first time we say that Kenny is aware of his dying all the time, and that there is some kind of link to the mythos. And so it just sort of all started making sense when we were reading more of the Lovecraft stuff, and this whole thing with Cthulhu, where there's this whole thing that's like that, which sleeps forever can never die, and whatever the quote is, that's like, wow, this is about a thing that lives forever, and this is about sort of immortality. And so let's play into the mystery. But we also knew, like, let's not sit here and figure out an answer. That's why so many TV shows do this, like Lost or whatever. It's like, let's not just say, here's the answer, and because that's so unsatisfying in a way. And we also thought, if we really say, here's exactly what's going on in these shows, this soon, that then now every time Kenny dies, and be like, oh, okay, there's that thing.
Right.
Rather than kind of still keeping it a bit mysterious, but explaining some. And obviously just the fact that Kenny is for the first time saying he's aware that this happens and that he dies
tortures
and he wakes up and tortures
him.
him.
He hates it, yeah.
We just thought that was such a cool thing, and that's when we're like, man, is this going to turn into a 3-parter? Because it just seemed like a big weighty thing, and all the comic book stuff was looking so cool that we just wanted to see more of it ourselves.
So we did 3. This guy, we decided afterwards, this dude right here, this cult leader, we should have made the goth kids.
Yeah,
that was a fuck
so
up.
Always stuff like that happened. This scene was done pretty early on, and then then later on, a few days later, we're like, oh, let's bring the goth kids in. It's like, then that guy should just be the goth kid, but you run out of time. You can't go back and change everything. It's part of why it just has the feel it does, which is a feeling of this isn't quite done.
Yeah, it's called the half-baked. Fresh from the oven, but sort of not quite done yet. But you're so hungry, you eat it anyway. Let's move on.
Finally, we got to part 3, which we always knew we were going to start with the Mint Berry Crunch comic, because just seemed like the right way to go. And we actually even knew when we thought this was all going to be a one-part thing, just because the show started with Cartman reaming Mint-Berry Crunch for not really being a superhero, we kind of thought, okay, whatever happens in the end, Mint-Berry Crunch has got to be the one that actually saves the day, and that'll piss Cartman off. And so basically just took that idea and kept it till the end of part 3.
Yeah. I love this comic book stuff. The other thing is, in this episode, you'll notice we just got rid of Captain Hindsight. We couldn't figure out anything for him.
Yeah.
And we said, you know what, instead of fucking shoehorning him in, he just won't be here.
Yeah.
And unless you're a huge Captain Hindsight fan, you probably won't notice.
And all the Captain Hindsight fans can wait till next season when we do a 3-parter of Captain Hindsight. But this was a big, so again, this was sort of deciding how much to reveal. We actually do know a bit more about why Kenny has his power and what it exactly is and everything. And we're not just saying that. We really kind of do. But we just didn't want to sort of spill it all right here because we thought it's fun we might want to see Kenny being Mysterion again. We didn't want, and that's so un-superhero-like to be like, here's your answer or you're done. Mm-hmm. The mystery should keep going on a little bit. And so, but I will say that there's one part in this show that's not spoken, that's sort of a hidden thing that reveals a bit more of what is actually going on, if you look for it.
With Kenny?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Wow. I wonder if I know what that is. I probably do.
It's in one of the panels. It's in one of the storyboard
yeah. I mean, I think we're definitely going to, I can't wait to do another Mysterion Coon show. I think this is cool. I mean, I love the comic book stuff. It gives gives the characters these other... What's cool is like we've done stuff before with like Lord of the Rings or anime where the kids have kind of like personas and then we play it within that style and stuff. But I feel like this, especially because with Cartman and Kenny, and we haven't really done it with Human Kite and Tool Shed yet, or Tupperware. But with a couple of them, it isn't just they're playing, but it's a little more than that. Like it's it means Mysterion. You can tell means more to Kenny. This is where he can kind of be more than he is when he's his normal self. Right. And Cartman cares about his Coon franchise, and so there's just something really, it kind of gives the whole show like a whole new place to go that we haven't had in a while. It feels very like a big idea. So I think, I want to definitely do more of these. We figure out what it could be.
And probably most importantly, what people should know is that at the very end, when the little alien or whatever he is comes down and tells Mint-Berry Crunch his origins, that's actually based on, what's that guy's name?
Based on Lamal, the lead singer of Kajagoogoo.
If you look at the music video of Never Ending Story, because of course there was some elements of this that felt like Never Ending Story with Cartman and Cthulhu, and so we looked at that and anyway, that we sort of did the haircut based on that haircut.
He has Lamal's haircut.
Is that maybe that's ripping shit off too? Maybe we shouldn't be doing that.
We shouldn't be ripping off haircuts.
Maybe we should give that guy a call. But also
I would say I'm kind of bummed Mint-Berry Crunch is gone forever because I thought Mint-Berry Crunch
he'll be back.
Mint-Berry Crunch is a great character.
He said I'll be back someday.
Yeah.
So
I'll be back.
maybe next show.
Yeah.
But and then the other big thing was with Cartman and Cthulhu. There's these references to Totoro, which was just like one of
that was in 2, and then in this one is the.
There's one, isn't it in this one too? There's another Totoro.
No, that was in the second one, wasn't it?
Oh, I thought we did one more in this one.
Cthulhu.
Yeah, that was.
That's the end of 6.
What am I thinking of though?
No, this is the Warner Brothers one of the.
Oh yeah,
dog
the dog and the kitten,
and the little kitty who scratches his back.
Yeah, which is like one of the best Warner Brothers cartoons ever.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's that.
Let's move on to Creme Fraiche.
Passengers said the carnival.
So this is the last run of our 14th season.
Last show of our
14th season, and it's called Creme Fraiche.
Which is actually probably my favorite one.
And like I said, like it's a 7th show, so it kind of feels weird and different. And in doing that, it became like a really fun, funny show.
There's just certain shows that in every retake set, every single shot that I'm watching, I'm laughing my ass off, and this was one of them. But a lot of it just we've been wanting to do kind of a Food Network show for a long time just because I'm such a big, that's probably the channel I watch more than any channel is Food Network. It got me into cooking and everything, and I love all those shows. And I watch all, and he's not on Food Network, but all of the Gordon Ramsay stuff I watch all the time too. So it really was supposed to be a big sort of celebrity chef show and get into all that. But then we were going to have this little tiny runner of Sharon doing shake weight, and it just took over the show. It just, because somehow the character of the shake weight was a lot more interesting than anything else that was going on. But obviously the shake weight thing, obviously it happened quite a while before this, so it's a bit of it seemed kind of like, oh well, that's old new. Everyone's already joked about that, but we just kind of thought this was a really funny. Once it started talking, we're like, okay, well this is a whole new thing, and of course the refreshing mist in your face.
Mm-hmm. The cool down mist. For me, this show is about like I love the ripping on the term crème fraîche.
Yeah.
I just think that's the most ridiculous fucking term.
We're trying to make it so that now when anyone goes to a restaurant and a waiter says, here's some crème fraîche, that they get laughed at.
Yeah, just please order crème fraîche. Go crème fraîche because it's just such a overused.
But the thing is, like,
Stupid
I
term.
love so much of the show, and I love shows that have a lot of shots that just go on and like where it's just one big shot. Because it means lots of stuff's going on. You're not, and the stuff with Sharon and the shake weight is just so great, and everyone can relate to what's going on. But my favorite part of this show is at the end when Randy says, "Oh wow, an old fashioned,"
And you know exactly what he's talking about
it's just like
because you watch the shake.
we don't even know where. Like somewhere in the room, we just started calling it an old fashioned, and it just even like it way better than crème fraîche. We're hoping that catches on, and that everyone starts calling a hand job an old fashioned.
Just the fact, basically, the whole episode, in that first shot where they're on the couch, if she just would have given him an old-fashioned, none of the episode would have happened.
Yeah.
Like, their marriage would be okay.
Yeah.
She wouldn't have had to hang up and gone and tried to work out equipment.
Yeah.
Would have ended up in the Bahamas to get her groove bag. He wouldn't have gotten all crazy about food, all this pent-up sexual
One old
tension.
fashioned would have taken care of
Just
the whole
one
thing.
old-fashioned. And that would have been a 30-second episode. I like the fact, too, I think it was kind of interesting. First, we thought it was kind of a crap-out ending, but it turned out to be really good, the idea that we're building to this big competition, big Iron Chef-style competition, that obviously, you know, as a big set piece would be cool, but it actually doesn't fucking matter because you don't care about that. And then you go home and he can't find his crème fraîche and he gets an old-fashioned and that's the end. And you never even get back to those guys.
I haven't had an old fashioned in a long time.
And I like the fact that he farts before he goes to sleep.
I
And
love
she
to-
smiles.
like,
It's like everything's okay. Like,
normally,
you know,
what's so funny is that normally you would do because we came up with that at the end, and we're like, okay, well now you've got to go and set up old fashioned. Like now you've got to have someone say what an old fashioned or mention old fashioned in the beginning, and we're like, no, fuck it, let's not. Like that just comes out of nowhere. Old fashioned,
an old fashioned. And I like the last scene's really good with where Shake Weight's basically like Michael Landon.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, my work's here done.
returning to heaven.
I'm gonna go back up to heaven.
But anyway, there's season 14. Thanks a lot for watching and listening to our stupid shit.
Cool. Thank you.
Get yours today.